The enigmatic beauty of Nshira. The village of Nyamekye, nestled at the foot of rolling hills, was a bustling hub of life and commerce. Known for its hardworking people and vibrant marketplace, it was a place where stories were told, laughter was shared, and everyone seemed to know everyone. Yet, despite the close-knit nature of the community, one woman stood apart, Nshira. Nshira was a vision of beauty, her radiant skin glowing like polished mahogany under the sun, her deep brown eyes shimmering with warmth. Her movements were graceful, and her voice carried a soothing melody that calmed even the most restless soul. Beyond her physical beauty, she possessed a kind heart that endeared her to the villagers. She often gave fruits to hungry children for free or helped elderly women carry their goods from the market. But despite her charm and generosity, Nshira was a mystery. No one knew where she lived, nor did she let anyone get too close. Each day, she arrived at the market before sunrise, her stall laden with the freshest fruits and herbs. Her produce was unmatched in quality, drawing customers from far and wide. Yet, as dusk approached, she would pack up her goods and disappear, slipping away before the first stars appeared in the sky. The villagers speculated endlessly about her secretive life. Perhaps she's a princess hiding from her enemies, one elder would suggest, puffing on his pipe. Or maybe she's cursed and must return to the forest before nightfall, another would whisper, eyes wide with excitement. The tales grew wilder with each passing day, but Nshira paid no attention to the rumors. She simply smiled, thanked her customers, and continued her routine. Men from all over Nyamekye and neighboring villages were drawn to her, eager to win her heart. They brought her gifts, jewelry, flowers, even exotic spices from far-off lands, but Nshira politely declined each offer. "Thank you," she would say with a gentle smile, "but I am not ready." Her kindness never wavered, but her heart remained unattainable, leaving the suitors bewildered and heartbroken. One bright morning, the usual hum of the marketplace grew louder as news of a visitor spread through the village. A traveler had arrived, his presence causing quite the stir. Kwame was his name, a young man with a confident stride, his clothes dusty from the road but his eyes sharp and filled with curiosity. He was a trader, traveling from village to village with goods strapped to his donkey. His reputation preceded him as a skilled negotiator and a man of ambition. As Kwame strolled through the market, his eyes fell upon Nshira at her stall, arranging a basket of ripe mangoes. For a moment, he froze. He had seen many beautiful women during his travels, but none like her. Her presence seemed to cast a glow over the bustling market, her every movement mesmerizing. Kwame found himself drawn to her, unable to look away. Gathering his courage, Kwame approached her stall. "Good morning," he said, his voice steady despite the flutter in his chest. "I couldn't help but notice your fruits. They look exceptional." Nshira looked up, her soft smile lighting up her face. "Good morning, traveler. They are fresh from the farm. Would you like to try one?" Kwame nodded, reaching for a mango. As he bit into it, the sweet juice burst onto his tongue, and he couldn't help but laugh. "This is the best mango I've ever tasted," he declared. "I'm glad you like it," Nshira replied, her smile widening. "You must be new to Nyamekye. What brings you here?" Kwame leaned against the store, his easy charm taking over. "I'm a trader, passing through on my way to the next village. But now that I've found this market, and your stall, I might stay a little longer." Nshira chuckled softly, her laugh like a delicate melody. "Well, I hope Nyamekye treats you well, traveler." From that day, Kwame made it his mission to visit Nshira's stall every morning. He bought her fruits, complimented her wares, and found excuses to linger. He noticed the way her smile could brighten even the dreariest of days, and he was captivated by her gentle nature. The more he learned about her, the more he admired her, but the more curious he became about her secrets. One evening, as the market began to wind down, Kwame decided to test his luck. Nshira, He began, his tone earnest. You are unlike anyone I've ever met. I feel drawn to you, as if fate brought me to this village. Will you let me walk you home tonight? Nshira hesitated, her smile faltering for the first time. I appreciate your kindness, Kwame, but I prefer to walk alone. The stars keep me company, she said gently, turning to pack up her stall. Kwame's curiosity burned brighter. Who was this enigmatic woman who charmed everyone yet kept them at arm's length? What was she hiding? As Nshira disappeared into the twilight, Kwame made a silent vow. He would uncover the mystery of Nshira, not out of mere curiosity but because he felt a deep connection to her, a connection he could not explain. Little did Kwame know, his journey to win Nshira's heart would lead him to truths far beyond his imagination, unraveling secrets that could change his life forever. Kwame's determined pursuit. Kwame's days in Nyamekye quickly fell into a pattern, one that revolved almost entirely around Nshira. Each morning, as the sun rose and the village market buzzed to life, he found himself drawn to her stall. Whether it was to buy a basket of fruits or simply to exchange pleasantries, Kwame made sure to cross her path. His easy charm and genuine admiration for her were impossible to miss. At first, Nshira treated him as she did all her customers, with a kind but reserved demeanor. She laughed politely at his jokes and thanked him for his patronage, but she remained careful not to share too much about herself. Yet, there was something about Kwame's persistence that began to chip away at her walls. His conversations weren't just empty flattery, he spoke of his travels, the beauty of distant lands, and the wisdom of the people he had met. Slowly, Nshira started to let her guard down. Tell me, Nshira, Kwame said one morning as he handed her coins for a basket of guavas, have you ever thought about traveling beyond Nyamekye? You could see so much more of the world. Nshira smiled wistfully, her fingers lightly brushing the edge of her stall. The world is vast, Kwame, but not everyone is meant to wander. Some of us belong where our roots are deepest. Kwame tilted his head, intrigued by her words. And where are your roots, Nshira? You've lived here all your life, but no one seems to know much about you. Her smile faltered for just a moment, but she quickly recovered. My roots are here, in Nyamekye. This village is my home, she said firmly, turning away to arrange her fruits. Kwame sensed the subtle shift in her tone, a gentle but clear signal that she didn't wish to discuss the matter further. He decided to change the subject, but his curiosity only grew. As days turned into weeks, Kwame's efforts to win Nshira's trust began to pay off. She started to laugh more openly at his jokes and lingered a little longer in their conversations. He noticed the way her eyes softened when she spoke to him and how her smile seemed less guarded. The villagers, ever watchful, began whispering among themselves. Perhaps Kwame will be the one to win her heart, they speculated. Maybe he'll uncover her secrets. Encouraged by their growing rapport, Kwame decided to take a bold step. One afternoon, as the market was winding down, he approached Nshira with an invitation. Nshira, he began, his voice steady but hopeful, there's a festival in the village square tomorrow evening. It will be full of music, dancing, and lanterns. Would you join me? Nshira hesitated, her hand stealing over a basket of oranges. For a brief moment, a flicker of longing crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by her usual calm demeanor. That sounds lovely, Kwame, she said softly, but I must decline. I have other matters to attend to. Kwame tried to hide his disappointment. Perhaps another time, then, he replied with a smile, though his mind was already racing. What could possibly be more important than a night of celebration? Why was she always so evasive? The next evening, as the festival lit up the village square with vibrant colors and joyous laughter, Kwame found himself unable to fully enjoy the festivities. His thoughts were consumed by Nshira and the mystery that surrounded her. Finally, unable to resist his curiosity, he decided to follow her. Positioning himself near her stall as the market closed, Kwame watched from the shadows as Nshira packed up her goods. She moved swiftly, her hands deftly tying bundles and securing her baskets. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, she balanced the load on her head and began walking away from the market. Kwame trailed her at a safe distance, his heart pounding with anticipation. She moved gracefully through the village, her path deliberate and unwavering. To his surprise, she didn't head toward any of the homes or familiar paths. Instead, she walked toward the edge of the village, toward the forbidden forest. The forbidden forest was a place shrouded in fear and superstition. The villagers told tales of spirits and creatures that lived among the ancient trees, warning that anyone who ventured too deep would never return. It was said to be a place where the veil between the human world and the supernatural was thin, and it was avoided at all costs. Kwame hesitated for a moment as Nshira disappeared into the dense foliage. His instinct screamed at him to turn back, to let the mystery remain unsolved. But his curiosity and his growing feelings for Nshira overpowered his fear. Steeling himself, he followed her into the forest. The air grew cooler as he ventured deeper into the woods, the sounds of the festival fading behind him. The towering trees cast eerie shadows, and the rustling of leaves seemed almost like whispers. Kwame kept his distance, careful not to make any noise that might alert Nshira to his presence. He watched as she moved gracefully through the forest, her steps confident and unafraid. She seemed to belong here, as if the forest itself welcomed her. After a while, she stopped in a small clearing bathed in moonlight. Kwame crouched behind a tree, his breath caught in his throat. What he saw next would change everything. Nshira placed her basket on the ground and stood still, her arms outstretched as if in communion with the forest. Slowly, her form began to shift. Her legs fused together, and her skin glimmered with iridescent scales. Before Kwame's astonished eyes, Nshira transformed into a creature both beautiful and terrifying, a half-human, half-serpent being. Kwame's heart raced as he struggled to process what he was seeing. The woman he had come to admire, the enigmatic beauty of Nyamekye, was no ordinary human. She was something otherworldly, something beyond his understanding. Nshira, now in her true form, began to sing, a haunting, melodic tune that seemed to resonate with the very trees. As she sang, the forest around her came alive. Fireflies danced in the air, their light casting an ethereal glow. Small creatures emerged from the shadows, gathering around her as if drawn to her presence. Kwame's initial fear was replaced by awe. He had uncovered Nshira's secret, but it only deepened the mystery. Who was she? What was her connection to the forbidden forest? And, most importantly, what would he do with this knowledge? As Nshira's song faded into the night, she gathered her baskets and began to make her way back toward the village. Kwame, shaken but determined, slipped away before she could notice him. He returned to the village, his mind racing with questions and his heart heavy with the weight of her secret. He now knew that winning Nshira's heart would not only mean earning her trust but also understanding the depth of her true nature. And though fear lingered in the corners of his mind, Kwame made a silent promise: he would not abandon her, no matter what lay ahead. Secrets of the Forbidden Forest. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon when Kwame found himself at the edge of the Forbidden Forest once again. The night before had been restless, the image of Nshira transforming into a half-human, half-serpent being replayed in his mind like a vivid dream. He had told himself he would let the matter rest, but curiosity, and something deeper, drew him back. The villagers' warnings about the forest echoed in his ears. No one who enters comes out the same, they would say, their voices hushed with fear. But Kwame was no ordinary man. His travels had taken him through dangerous terrain and across vast lands. This, he thought, was just another challenge. As he stepped into the forest, the atmosphere changed immediately. The air felt heavier, almost alive, and the towering trees seemed to whisper secrets to one another. A faint glow filtered through the canopy, creating a surreal, otherworldly ambience. Kwame gripped the small talisman his mother had given him long ago for protection and moved deeper into the unknown. The hidden world. The deeper Kwame ventured, the stranger the forest became. Flowers glowed softly in the shadows, and tiny creatures with wings flitted around, their laughter like the tinkling of bells. A stream of crystal-clear water wound its way through the trees, its surface shimmering as if it were made of liquid silver. It was a place both beautiful and eerie, a world unlike anything Kwame had ever seen. As he walked, he noticed the forest growing quieter. The rustling leaves and chirping birds seemed to fade, replaced by a low hum that grew louder with each step. He followed the sound until he came upon a clearing where a massive tree stood at the center. The tree was unlike any other he had seen. Its trunk glowed faintly, and its branches twisted upward as if reaching for the heavens. Its leaves shimmered in shades of gold and green, and the roots seemed to pulse, as though the tree had a heartbeat. Kwame felt an inexplicable pull toward it, his feet moving almost of their own accord. As he approached, the hum grew louder, and he realized it wasn't just a sound, it was a voice, soft and melodic, speaking a language he couldn't understand. He placed a hand on the trunk, and for a moment, a wave of warmth and calm washed over him. But the moment was fleeting. A sudden movement in the corner of his eye snapped him back to reality. Nshira's true form. Kwame crouched behind a cluster of bushes as figures began to emerge from the shadows. At first, he thought they were people, but as they came into view, he realized they were something else entirely. Their forms shimmered, blending human and animal traits, a woman with wings like a butterfly, a man whose skin sparkled like obsidian, and a child with glowing eyes. They moved gracefully, their laughter soft and melodic. Then, Nshira appeared. Kwame's breath caught in his throat as he watched her step into the clearing. She was in her human form, her beauty radiant in the soft glow of the tree. The other beings greeted her warmly, their voices blending in a harmonious melody. Nshira smiled, her expression one of belonging and peace. But then, as if performing a ritual, she stepped closer to the tree and extended her arms. Her body began to change. Scales shimmered on her skin, her legs fused into a long, elegant tail, and her eyes glowed with a golden light. She had transformed into her half-human, half-serpent form. The sight was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Kwame's heart pounded as he struggled to process what he was witnessing. This wasn't the Nshira he had come to know in the marketplace. This was someone, or something, entirely different. Yet, despite his fear, he couldn't look away. The group began to circle the tree, chanting softly in a language Kwame didn't understand. The air grew thicker with energy, and the tree's glow intensified. Kwame felt as though he were intruding on something sacred, something he had no right to witness. He shifted slightly, his foot snapping a twig beneath him. The sound echoed through the clearing like a thunderclap. Nshira and the others froze, their heads turning sharply toward the source of the noise. Kwame's heart raced as Nshira's glowing eyes scanned the trees, her expression shifting from calm to tense. For a moment, their eyes met, though he wasn't sure if she had truly seen him. Without thinking, he turned and ran. A frightened retreat. Kwame sprinted through the forest, the whispers of the tree seeming to grow louder with every step. His mind raced as fast as his feet. What had he just witnessed? Was Nshira a spirit? A guardian of the forest? And why had she hidden this part of herself from the world? By the time he reached the edge of the forest, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon. Kwame stumbled into the village, his chest heaving and his thoughts in disarray. He needed answers, but he also knew he had to approach Nshira carefully. This was no ordinary secret, and he couldn't risk exposing her to the villagers, not without understanding the full story. Nshira's realization. Back in the forest, Nshira stood silently by the tree, a serpent form shimmering in the fading glow of the morning light. Her heart was heavy, her mind swelling with worry. She had sensed the presence of an intruder, and though she hadn't seen him clearly, something deep within her told her who it was. "Kwame," she whispered, her voice tinged with sadness. The beings around her looked at her with concern. "What troubles you, Nshira?" asked one, their voice soft and melodic. "I fear I have been discovered," she replied, her gaze fixed on the distant edge of the forest. "A man from the village, a man I care for, has seen my true form." The others exchanged worried glances. "You know the rules, Nshira," another said gently. "If a human learns of our world, it puts everything at risk." "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "But I cannot bring myself to harm him. I must speak to him, to understand his intentions." The group fell silent, their expressions a mix of sympathy and concern. Nshira knew the danger of what she was about to do, but she also knew that she couldn't ignore the bond she felt with Kwame. She would have to confront him, and face whatever consequences followed. The proposal and the curse. The following morning, Kwame woke with a sense of resolve. The events of the previous night still weighed heavily on his mind, but he knew he could not let fear rule him. If anything, his discovery of Nshira's secret had deepened his feelings for her. She was no ordinary woman, and her mysterious nature only made her more extraordinary. He needed answers, but more than that, he needed her to know how he felt. As the marketplace bustled with activity, Kwame made his way to Nshira's store. She stood there as always, her serene beauty drawing the usual crowd of customers. But today, there was a subtle tension in her demeanor. Her eyes flickered toward the forest more often than usual, and her smile seemed more cautious. When Kwame approached, she greeted him with her customary warmth, but he could sense the unease behind her words. "Good morning, Kwame," she said softly. "You're here early today." "I needed to see you," Kwame replied, his voice steady but honest. "There's something important I need to say." Nshira paused, her hand stealing over a basket of ripe bananas. "Is that so?" she asked, her tone careful. "Yes," he said, glancing around at the crowded marketplace. "But not here. Can we speak somewhere more private?" Nshira hesitated, her gaze searching his face for any sign of ill intent. Finally, she nodded. "Very well. Meet me at the edge of the forest at dusk." A private revelation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Kwame arrived at the meeting spot. Nshira was already there, standing beneath a large baobab tree. The fading light cast a golden glow around her, making her seem almost otherworldly. "You've been troubled," she said as he approached. "I can see it in your eyes." Kwame took a deep breath, his heart pounding. "Nshira, I know about the forest. I know about your other form." Nshira stiffened, her calm expression faltering for a moment. "You followed me," she said, her voice low but steady. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. "I did," Kwame admitted. "And I saw things I can't explain. I saw you transform. I saw the others. I know you're not like the rest of us. But I don't care, Nshira. I care about you." Nshira's eyes softened, but there was a sadness in her gaze. "You don't understand, Kwame. What you saw is only the surface of who I am. I come from a lineage of forest guardians, beings who exist to maintain the balance between the human and magical worlds. Our duty is sacred, and it comes with rules that make it dangerous for me to be close to humans." Kwame stepped closer, his determination unwavering. "Then help me understand. Tell me everything. The truth about Nshira." Nshira sighed, the weight of her secrets pressing down on her. "Long ago, my ancestors were chosen by the spirits of the earth to protect the natural order. We live in harmony with the forest, ensuring that its magic doesn't spill into the human world and that humans don't disrupt its balance. But over the years, humans have grown more curious, more ambitious, and that balance has become harder to maintain. She paused, her voice trembling slightly. Because of this, my kind have been cursed. If we fall in love with a human and try to live as one of them, tragedy will follow. The curse ensures that any human who loves us will face misfortune, loss, betrayal, even death. It is the price we pay for our role as guardians. Kwame listened intently, his heart aching for her. Is that why you've kept everyone at a distance? Why you've hidden this part of yourself? Yes, Nshira replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I've seen the curse destroy lives. I won't let that happen again. That's why I can't let anyone get too close. Kwame's proposal. Kwame stepped forward, his hand reaching for hers. Nshira, I've traveled far and seen many things, but nothing has ever made me feel the way you do. I don't care about curses or dangers. What I care about is you. You're worth the risk. Nshira shook her head, her voice breaking. Kwame, you don't understand. The curse isn't just a threat, it's real. It will destroy you. Then let me fight it, Kwame said, his voice firm. Let me prove that love can overcome anything. Nshira, will you marry me? The question hung in the air, heavy with both hope and fear. Nshira's breath caught, her heart torn between the desire to say yes and the need to protect him. You don't know what you're asking, she whispered. If you marry me, the curse will come for you. It will test you in ways you can't imagine. Kwame knelt before her, his eyes locking onto hers. I don't care. Whatever the curse throws at us, we'll face it together. I believe our love is stronger than any curse. Nshira's tears fell freely now, and she nodded slowly. If you're truly willing to take this risk, then I will marry you. But you must promise me one thing. Anything, Kwame said, his voice steady. Promise me that no matter how hard things get, you won't give up. You must fight for us, for our love. I promise, Kwame said without hesitation. The weight of a promise. As the stars began to fill the sky, Nshira and Kwame stood hand in hand, their hearts full of both hope and dread. They knew the path ahead would be treacherous, but they also knew they would face it together. Unbeknownst to them, the forest watched silently, its ancient magic stirring in response to their union. The curse had been awakened, and its trials were about to begin. The wedding night revelation. The day of Kwame and Nshira's wedding dawned with clear skies and a sense of anticipation in the air. The entire village of Nyamekye buzzed with excitement, for it wasn't every day that such a union took place. Kwame, the charismatic traveler, and Nshira, the enigmatic beauty, had captured the hearts of the villagers, and their wedding promised to be a grand celebration. The village square was transformed into a scene of splendor. Colorful fabrics hung from every corner, bright flowers adorned the pathways, and the sweet scent of roasted yams and spice stew filled the air. Drummers played lively rhythms, children danced, and elders gathered in groups, sharing stories and blessings. Nshira, dressed in a flowing gown of emerald green that shimmered in the sunlight, looked radiant. Her hair was adorned with golden beads, and her smile, though tinged with nervousness, lit up the square. Kwame, in his finest robes, stood tall and proud, his heart pounding with a mix of joy and anticipation. For him, this was more than a wedding, it was a declaration of his unwavering love for Nshira, no matter the challenges they would face. A day of joy. The ceremony was beautiful. The village elder presided over the union, his voice steady as he spoke of love, commitment, and unity. Kwame and Nshira exchanged vows under a canopy of woven palm leaves, their words filled with heartfelt promises. I promise to stand by you, Kwame said, his voice steady, to protect you, to cherish you, and to love you, no matter what challenges come our way. Nshira's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she replied, "And I promise to love you with all that I am, to share in your joys and sorrows, and to face the future with you, no matter where it leads." The villagers erupted in cheers as the couple sealed their vows, their hands entwined. The rest of the day was filled with music, dancing, and feasting. The happiness was contagious, and for a moment, even Nshira allowed herself to forget the shadow of the curse that loomed over them. The night of transformation. As the festivities wound down and the villagers returned to their homes, Kwame and Nshira retired to the small house they would now share. The moon hung low in the sky, its silvery light casting soft shadows through the open windows. Inside, Nshira's heart was heavy with unease. She had felt the stirrings of the curse throughout the day, a subtle tension in the air, a tingling in her skin, but she had kept it hidden, not wanting to mar the joy of their wedding. Kwame, noticing her quietness, approached her gently. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. "I'm fine," Nshira replied, though her voice trembled. "It's just, everything feels so new. I'm still adjusting." Kwame smiled and took her hands in his. "We'll face it all together, Nshira. You're not alone anymore." Nshira nodded, her heart swelling with love for him, but deep down, she feared what was to come. As the night deepened, the air in the room grew still. A sudden chill swept through, and Nshira's body stiffened. She gasped, clutching her stomach as a searing pain coursed through her. Kwame rushed to her side, panic flashing across his face. "Nshira! What's happening?" he cried. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, her body began to change. Scales erupted across her skin, shimmering in the moonlight. Her legs fused together, forming a long, powerful tail. Her eyes glowed with an eerie golden light, and her hair flowed like dark rivers down her back. In moments, Nshira had transformed into her serpent form. The curse revealed. Kwame stumbled back, his breath caught in his throat. The woman he had just married, the woman he loved, was now something otherworldly, a creature both beautiful and terrifying. "Nshira," he whispered, his voice shaking. Tears streamed down Nshira's face, her serpent eyes filled with sorrow. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling but still soft. "This is the curse, Kwame. This is who I am. I tried to warn you, but I couldn't stop it." Kwame's mind raced. Fear gripped him, but so did a deep sadness. He had promised to love her no matter what, but standing before her now, he felt the weight of that promise in a way he hadn't anticipated. I need a moment," he said, his voice barely audible. He turned away, his heart pounding in his chest. Nshira coiled into herself, her serpent form trembling. She had known this would happen, but it didn't make the pain any less. She feared that she had lost him, that the curse had already begun its work. "Kwame," she said, her voice breaking. "If you can't stay, I'll understand. I don't want to bring you pain." Kwame stopped in his tracks, her words cutting through his fear. He turned back to her, his expression a mix of anguish and determination. "I made a promise to you, Nshira. I told you I'd stay, no matter what. I won't break that promise. But this is a lot to take in. I just need time to understand." Nshira nodded, her tears falling freely now. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here." A night of uncertainty. The night passed slowly, the weight of the curse hanging heavily over them. Kwame sat by the window, staring out into the moonlit village, while Nshira remained in her serpent form, coiled in the corner of the room. Neither spoke, the silence filled with unspoken fears and questions. As dawn approached, Nshira's form began to shift back. By the time the first light of day touched the horizon, she was human again. She looked at Kwame, her eyes pleading for understanding. Kwame stood and walked to her, his expression unreadable. Then, he reached out and gently took her hand. I don't know what the future holds, he said softly, but I meant what I said. We'll face it together. Nshira's heart ached with gratitude and love. Though the curse loomed over them, they had taken the first step toward facing it as one. Seeking redemption. The events of the wedding night weighed heavily on Kwame's mind. Though he had promised Nshira he wouldn't abandon her, the reality of their situation was daunting. He couldn't ignore the transformation he had witnessed or the fear it had instilled in him. But his love for her was stronger than his fear, and he resolved to find a way to lift the curse that plagued her. The village elder's guidance. Kwame sought out the wisest person in the village, the elder Nana Asante, whose counsel had guided the people of Nyamekye for decades. Sitting beneath a large baobab tree, Nana Asante listened carefully as Kwame explained everything, the curse, Nshira's true nature, and his determination to save her. Nana Asante nodded slowly, his expression grave. The path you have chosen is not an easy one, Kwame, he said. Curses of this nature are not simply undone. They are woven deeply into the fabric of fate. But there may be a way. Kwame leaned forward, his heart racing. Tell me, Nana. I'll do whatever it takes. The Oracle of Oduam, Nana Asante said, his voice barely above a whisper. They are the only one who can guide you. The oracle resides at the foot of the sacred mountain, where the veil between worlds is thin. If anyone can help you, it is them. But be warned, the journey is fraught with peril, and the oracle's guidance often comes with a price. Kwame thanked Nana Asante and left the village with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew he couldn't undertake this journey alone. He needed Nshira by his side. A promise renewed. When Kwame returned to their home, he found Nshira sitting by the window, her gaze distant. She turned to him as he entered, her expression guarded. You've been gone a long time, she said softly. I needed to think, Kwame replied, stepping closer. He took her hands in his voice steady. I was afraid, Nshira, but not of you, or failing you. I love you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to lift this curse. I spoke to Nana Asante, and he told me about the Oracle of Oduam. Nshira's eyes widened. The Oracle. Kwame, that is not a journey to be taken lightly. The mountain is dangerous, and the Oracle's tests are said to be impossible for most. Then we'll face it together, Kwame said firmly. I promised I wouldn't give up on you, and I meant it. Will you come with me? Nshira hesitated, her heart torn between hope and fear. But as she looked into Kwame's eyes, she saw the determination and love that had drawn her to him in the first place. She nodded. Yes. I'll go with you. The journey begins. Kwame and Nshira set out at dawn, the path to the sacred mountain winding through dense forest and rocky terrain. The air grew cooler as they ascended, and the world around them seemed to grow quieter, as if holding its breath. The first trial came sooner than they expected. As they crossed a narrow bridge over a rushing river, the wooden planks began to crack beneath their feet. Nshira froze, her serpent instincts making her wary of heights. Kwame reached out to steady her, his voice calm and reassuring. Trust me, he said. We'll get across together. Step by step, they moved forward, Kwame's hand never leaving hers. The bridge groaned under their weight, but they made it to the other side just as it collapsed into the water below. Nshira looked at Kwame, her eyes filled with gratitude. I do trust you, she said softly. The trials of trust and sacrifice. The second trial tested their patience and unity. Deep in the forest, they encountered a fork in the path, each direction shrouded in mist. A voice echoed around them, eerie and disembodied. One path leads to safety, the other to despair. Only by agreeing can you proceed. Kwame and Nshira debated the choice, tension rising as they each felt pulled toward different paths. We can't afford to waste time, Kwame said, frustration creeping into his voice. The left path feels right. And I feel we should go right, Nshira countered, her voice firm but calm. I've walked these kinds of paths before, Kwame. You must trust me. Kwame hesitated, but the memory of Nshira's transformation, her vulnerability and courage reminded him of her wisdom. All right, he said, stepping aside. We'll take the right path. As they moved forward, the mist cleared to reveal a smooth trail leading upward. Nshira smiled at him, her hand brushing his arm. Thank you for trusting me. The Sacred Mountain. By the time they reached the base of the Sacred Mountain, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. The oracle's shrine stood before them, a simple yet majestic structure carved into the mountain's face. A fire burned in the center of the shrine, casting flickering shadows on the stone walls. The oracle emerged, their form cloaked in shimmering robes that seemed to shift colors in the firelight. Their voice was deep and resonant. Why have you come? Kwame stepped forward, his voice steady. I seek to lift the curse on Nshira. I love her and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. The oracle's gaze swept over them, their expression unreadable. The curse can only be broken through an act of pure sacrifice and trust, they said. The two of you must ascend to the peak of the mountain and perform the ritual of unity. But know this, the mountain will test you. If your love is not true, you will not succeed. Kwame and Nshira exchanged a glance, their hands tightening around each other's. We are ready, Nshira said. Then go, the oracle said, stepping aside. And may your heart guide you. The ascent. The climb to the mountain's peak was grueling. The air grew thinner, and the terrain became more treacherous. At one point, they encountered a fierce storm, the wind threatening to throw them off the narrow path. Kwame shielded Nshira with his body, his strength and determination unwavering. As they neared the summit, they faced one final test, a chasm that could only be crossed by leaping together. If we don't jump in unison, we'll fall, Nshira said, her voice trembling. Kwame took her hand, his gaze steady. Then we jump as one. Trust me. They counted to 3 and leapt, their hands clasped tightly. For a moment, it felt as though they were suspended in the air, the chasm yawning beneath them. But they landed safely on the other side, their hearts pounding with relief. At last, they reached the summit, where a stone altar awaited. The view from the peak was breathtaking, the stars shining brighter than ever. The oracle's voice echoed in their minds. Place your hands upon the altar and speak your truths. Kwame and Nshira obeyed, their voices steady as they declared their love and commitment. The wind swirled around them, carrying their words into the heavens. A warm light enveloped them, and they felt a deep connection to each other and the world around them, breaking the curse. The summit of the sacred mountain glowed under the light of the stars, and the air felt alive with ancient energy. Kwame and Nshira stood before a stone altar, their hands entwined. They had faced trials of trust and unity to reach this point, but now they stood on the brink of the final challenge. The oracle's voice resonated around them, seemingly carried on the wind. The curse that binds Nshira can only be undone through a sacrifice born of love. Kwame, you must offer up the thing you hold most dear, a symbol of your devotion and willingness to let go of your own desires for her freedom. Kwame took a deep breath. He knew what the oracle was asking of him, and his heart ached at the thought. He reached into the satchel slung over his shoulder and pulled out a small, glowing crystal, a magical artifact he had found during his journey through the Forbidden Forest. The artifact of power. The artifact was no ordinary trinket. It was a shard of the forest's ancient magic, a source of great power that had saved Kwame's life on more than one occasion. With it, he could summon strength, heal wounds, and ward off danger. It was a relic of immense value, one that any man would covet. But for Kwame, it symbolized something more. It was a reminder of his resourcefulness, his journey, and the resilience that had brought him this far. As he held the glowing crystal in his hand, he felt its warmth, a connection to the magical world that had become a part of his story. Sacrificing it would mean relinquishing not only its power but also a part of himself. The act of sacrifice. Nshira watched him, her serpent eyes glistening with emotion. "Kwame," she said softly, "you don't have to do this. I can't ask you to give up something so precious." Kwame turned to her, his expression resolute. "You're not asking, Nshira. I'm choosing. If this is what it takes to free you, to give us a chance at a life together, then it's worth it." With those words, Kwame stepped forward and placed the crystal on the altar. As soon as it touched the stone, the ground beneath them trembled, and the air grew thick with energy. The crystal began to glow brighter, its light pulsating like a heartbeat. "Speak your truth, Kwame," the oracle commanded. Kwame placed his hands on the altar and spoke with unwavering conviction. "I give up this artifact, my most cherished possession, as a symbol of my love for Nshira. I do this not out of obligation, but because she is my heart, my soul, and my future. I will sacrifice anything for her happiness." The crystal shattered into 1,000 shards, its light scattering into the night sky. The energy that had surrounded the altar surged outward, enveloping Kwame and Nshira in a warm, golden glow. The curse broken. Nshira gasped as she felt a weight lift from her chest, a dark presence that had shadowed her for as long as she could remember. Her serpent form shimmered, fading away as her body transformed completely into her human form. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at Kwame, her voice trembling. "The curse, it's gone." Kwame reached for her, pulling her into his arms. "It's over," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You're free now, Nshira. We are free." The oracle's voice echoed once more. "Your sacrifice was pure, your love unwavering. The curse is broken, and balance has been restored. Go now, and live the life you have fought for." A triumphant return. Hand in hand, Kwame and Nshira descended the mountain, their hearts light with relief and joy. When they returned to the village, the sight of them, unharmed and united, sparked a wave of celebration. The villagers, who had long admired Nshira's beauty and kindness, now embraced her fully, their earlier suspicions replaced with awe at her courage. Drums echoed through the village, and the square filled with laughter and music. Kwame and Nshira danced under the stars, their love now unburdened by secrets or curses. The villagers raised their voices in songs of blessing, their joy a testament to the power of love and sacrifice. A message of love and acceptance. As the night wore on, Kwame and Nshira stood at the edge of the festivities, watching the villagers celebrate. Nshira turned to Kwame, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You gave up so much for me," she said. "How can I ever repay you?" Kwame smiled, his hand brushing her cheek. "You don't need to repay me, Nshira. Love isn't about keeping score. It's about choosing each other, no matter the cost." Nshira leaned into his embrace, her heart full of peace. Together, they had faced impossible trials, and together, they had emerged stronger. Their story became a legend in Nyamekye, a tale of love, sacrifice, and the courage to embrace the unknown. The villagers often retold the story, ending with the same words: "True love isn't just about what we gain, but about what we are willing to give up for the one we love." End of the story.